Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of Citrix Converge 2020. I am Sanyukta Nadkarni. I'm part of the Application Delivery and Security Group working at Citrix. And I've come to talk to you about a very interesting topic, which is how Citrix ADM Service, which is Application Delivery Management Service, which is my product. So how Citrix ADM Service can help you automate your frequent ADC operational tasks. So I have a lot of information packaged into this session. I hope you enjoy it. And with that, let's get started. A quick disclaimer and note before we start the session that although most of the things I have shown, are already in the product, but if I do talk about anything which we are going to do in future, please note that the timing, the development, release of those functionalities described in the session will remain at discretion of Citrix. So do take a minute to read this note. All right, and with that, we'll get started with the agenda. So I'll be starting with how Citrix ADM Service helps with the overall automation picture. And then I'll be deep diving into some of the features and concepts of Citrix ADM Service. For example, talking about configuration jobs, which helps with config management of ADC instances, maintenance job, which helps with Citrix ADC upgrades, StyleBooks, which helps with app configurations, a StyleBook migration tool, which helps with migrating app configurations. And lastly, I'll be touching upon the API, which helps with scripting ADM and ADC tasks. And I'll be leaving you with certain reference materials which you can use after my session to read through and try whatever I've spoken through in the session. So let's first start with understanding how Citrix ADM Service can help you with automation. Let's look at some of the top automation needs of various Citrix ADC admin user personas. First persona is that of a network admin. Now, what network admins typically want is a consistent and compliant network config across all their ADC instances. Having a consistent configuration on ADC ensures that their traffic will be managed the way they want it to manage, and compliant or kind of auditing will ensure that there are no unwanted changes to those configurations. Having automated event notifications will help them get quick updates if anything has gone wrong or if anything needs their attention. Now, when I speak about events, I mean typically anything which is happening on the Citrix ADC instances. And, different admins like to get notifications via different channels. Some prefer email, some prefer SMS, some like automated notifications over ServiceNow or PagerDuty or Slack. And we have all that covered in ADM, which we'll come to later. And lastly, they'll always look at the top ask of network admin, which is to upgrade ADC instances. They'll want a simplified and automated way to do that. Next user persona is that of an app admin. App admin will look at having a simplified application deployment and also managing that application configuration and its migration in future, from say one Citrix ADC to another. He'll also want an automated analytical way of assessing how his application is performing at a given period of time. So some way in which this is done in the background automatically for him, and he gets to know if it is doing good or needs his attention. The third persona is that of a security admin. Now, security admins are concerned with looking into SSL cert management. Is any certificate expiring? Does he need to start the update process? And he also has to ensure that the SSL certificates of that organization comply with the enterprise's overall policy on SSL. And lastly, we have DevOps and SRE admin user persona, which typically look at automating the different operational tasks using API or scheduling these functionalities. Now, of course, these are just some of the tasks, the day-to-day tasks, or the jobs of these specific admins. There's much more that they do, but I've just covered the top ones. With that, now let's look at how Citrix ADM Service helps meet these automation needs. So firstly, to start with, deploying Citrix ADM Service is very easy. It's a cloud-based service hosted in Citrix Cloud, and it just requires you to do a few clicks to onboard. And it's very easy, and it's much preferable than the on-prem version because you don't have to bother about the deployment in terms of HA and DR hassles. Now, in terms of automation of configuration, there's a very simplified way you can automate and deploy your instance and app configurations using our config jobs and stylebooks respectively. We'll talk about it a lot more in the rest of the session, but these are two key features which many of our customers use today. And you can also use these to automate routine tasks like ADC upgrades. ADM service also helps with SSL cert management. So you can automate the certificate management to get notifications, say 30 days or 60 days before your certificate expiry, so that you can start the update process in time. And it also gives you a way to define your enterprise's SSL enterprise policy and get any notification if your current SSL certificates parameters, like for example, the key strength or the issuers do not comply with your enterprise's mandate. ADM service also helps with network monitoring and reporting. So you'll have, many of the customers will have requirements of automating network reports, which they want at a frequent interval, be it daily or weekly or certain days of the week. And that can be automated using ADM service. You can also have threshold-based notifications in which if you say that a metric, if it goes beyond this particular value, send me a report. And we also simplify maintenance of these services by supporting graceful shutdown, which will ensure that the connections are taken care of before shutting the service down. There's automated evaluation of your ADC instances as well as your applications. So ADM services module infrastructure analytics takes care of evaluating the performance of your ADC instances on a regular basis and updating to you, on a simple dashboard to tell you how the overall picture is or health status or performance status is of your ADC instances. And similarly, App Dashboard evaluates every application which you have in your deployment to tell you how they are doing and if anything really needs your attention. And of course, there are further drill downs to show you what the exact issue is and give you recommendations on how to fix it. And lastly, as I even touched upon in the earlier slide, ADM has complete API support. All the operations which can be done in ADM can also be done via ADM API. And there's another interesting part to it that ADM also acts like a proxy server to the ADC APIs. So you can make it act like an API proxy and route ADC APIs via it. So you can either use ADM APIs for ADM operations, or if you want ADM to act like a proxy API server, which does kind of the authorization logging and proxies the API forward to ADCs, you can do that as well. So with that, let's take a deep dive at some of the features and look at how they function. Starting with Citrix ADM service maintenance jobs for simplifying and automating ADC upgrades. So ADM service completely helps you simplify Citrix ADC upgrade, which is a task which every network admin or admin does in the course of managing the ADC lifecycle. You have to upgrade for reasons like availing new features, getting bug fixes, or if the ADC has reached end of maintenance, end of life, etc. So let's look at some of the benefits which you get if you use ADM service. Firstly, it can upgrade any kind of Citrix ADC, be it standalone, HA, or cluster. It helps you upgrade your fleet of ADC instances parallelly. Now, if you have, say, 20 or 50 or 100 ADCs, without ADM, you would have to go to each of these ADC instances and upgrade them or start the upgrade process sequentially. But with ADM, you can do all of that parallelly. ADM takes an automated backup of these instances before starting upgrade so that you can always use it in case something goes wrong with the config. You can schedule these upgrades as well at your typical maintenance time period. And of course, you can upgrade immediately as well. ADM service also gives you customized control levels for ADC upgrade. Now, while some admins like to upgrade both the ADC HA nodes, one after the other, uh, the other set of admins prefer doing it at in a controlled manner. That is, they'll first upgrade one node, then wait for some time, do certain checks on it to see that everything is okay, and then they'll go ahead with upgrading the other node. So ADM gives you the possibility or the option to configure this two-stage upgrade as well, wherein you can define when you want to upgrade your first node and when you want to upgrade your second node. It also performs certain built-in pre-upgrade checks, which will ensure that the very common reasons of upgrade failure are checked proactively before starting the upgrade, and notification is given to the admin to take care of them and fix them before starting the upgrade process. Apart from the built-in pre-upgrade checks, you can also execute custom scripts for additional pre and post checks, which you can do to check whether everything is as per your liking after the upgrade. A couple of other interesting options also, like you can disassociate image upload time from the actual upgrade activity time. You can save your ADC configuration before the upgrade, which many admins forget to do. And there are some things which will be in your running config but are not saved, so that can create problems. We also have a new way to upgrade, which ADC already supports and you must have heard of, which is called in-service software upgrade, ISSU. It essentially eliminates the downtime required in upgrading an ADC HA pair. So you can learn more about it in our ADC documentation on how that is done. There's a new internal feature called migrate, which helps with this activity. And now ADM also supports this particular functionality called ISSU, which will take care of upgrading your ADC instances without downtime. It also helps you auto-delete the upgrade softwares from ADC after successful upgrade so that you don't have to do these things manually. And it gives you a detailed execution report via UI as well as other options like email or Slack, so that you can look into if the upgrade activity was successful or it failed, and go really granular to know what exactly failed and what exactly passed. So with that, let's have a demo of this feature. So this is my Citrix ADM service instance management, where I can see all the instances and they're spread across different ADC versions. Now, for upgrade, I need to navigate to the config jobs and click on maintenance jobs. I click to create a new job and select upgrade Citrix ADC and proceed. Now, the first step is to give a certain name to the job and add the instances which you want to upgrade. I've selected all for now and I click on next. This triggers the pre-upgrade checks. Now it will check for a couple of things like, is there enough disk space for the upgrade to go through? Are there any disk errors which can lead to upgrade failure? Are there any customizations on your ADC which can get lost after upgrade? So it does these checks, and if any of the ADC instances fails any of these checks, it will update you. If it has passed, it will not show you. So 2 out of my selected target ADCs for upgrade have issues. I've zoomed into the issues so that you can see which of the ADC is showing which issue. Now you can also select on one of the ADC and click on details to get more level of details on the issue as well as how to solve it. For example, here the disk space check we see is insufficient and gives you ways to clear more disk space as well. Now you can either fix these problems there and then, or you can remove them for now in your upgrade activity and continue with the other instances, which is what I'll do to show you this demo. We come to the third step now, which is custom scripts. This is a completely optional step. If you want to execute any script pre and post upgrade of the node, you can do that and its output will be emailed to you. Now you either have the option to type in the commands, or you have the option to upload a file which has all these check commands. So as you can see, for the pre-upgrade, I have typed in commands, post-upgrade, I've put a file, and I click on next, which brings us to the schedule task tab. Now you can schedule for later depending upon your maintenance time window. As I mentioned earlier, you can even go for the two-stage upgrade activity wherein you want to specify two different types for your two HA nodes. So one time is the one I've already selected, and the next time I select is the same date. Of course, you can select different dates as well, but I've selected the same date after 3 hours. For now, I'll just go with upgrade now so that you can see how this upgrade job goes through. And when I click on next, it gets me to the last step of this upgrade activity, which has smaller options like clean software image, take a backup, etc. And the ability to receive upgrade reports via email or via Slack on your configured DL. Now, last step is to upload the software image which you want to upgrade to. And once that is complete, this will take a couple of minutes. And once that is complete, you can proceed to actually starting the job. So ADM service will give you the status. As you can see, the status is now completed. You can click on the upgrade job and go to the execution summary to see more details. So here you see the status is completed. You can drill down at another level, which shows you the instance log, that is, it succeeded across all the 4 ADCs which you had selected, and you get granular report at a command level as well. So everything has gone through successfully. So this was a quick demo on how ADM helps simplify and automate ADC upgrades. Do try it. It's a very interesting feature in ADM service, which many of our customers use today. With that, we'll now move on to the second feature, a deep dive, which is config jobs, how they help in configuring multiple ADC instances in one go. So I'll talk about two of the use cases of config jobs. It covers many other use cases, but two of the key use cases are these. Now, in DevOps scenarios, admins may execute something on their staging ADC instances, and then at a regular basis, you would want to extract the commands which you have executed on the staging ADC instances and execute them on the production ADC instances. So this is the typical DevOps kind of use case. So ADM config jobs gives you that ability wherein you can select the source of the config job as instance. It gives you an option to either pick the running config, saved config, or config by time duration. You can pick up config by time duration, and depending on your DevOps use case, you can select the duration, 1 day, 1 week, or a custom time. And you can say extract, wherein ADM will extract all the commands which you have performed on your staging ADC and will show them to you so that you can then take those commands and execute on your production Citrix ADC instances. Second use case is around simultaneous config push. Now, you will have instances when you want to push a particular configuration to multiple ADC instances, the same config, but you will have the same config to have different inputs for variables. For example, the virtual server IPs may differ, ports number may differ, and a lot of other things can differ. So for this use case, the ADM config jobs can take care of the use case wherein the admin simply needs to select a specific config template, select the ADC instances on which he wants to execute the configuration, define his variables, give the values, and the rest of the task is taken care of by ADM service. So let's take a look at a quick demo on this particular use case. Now I go to my Citrix ADM service and go to configuration jobs. Here I click on create job to create a new config job, give it a certain name, say config job 2. And now in the source, you can see the multiple sources which I talked about. You can select config templates to use your custom templates, inbuilt templates to use any of the templates provided by ADM service, master config to deploy new ADC instances which have spun up to kind of replace the NS config. Record and play is another interesting option in which is used by admins, which are more UI friendly, wherein you can go to the UI of an ADC, do some certain tasks, and ADM will intelligently capture those and translate them into CLI commands and put them upfront to you on your pane so that you can use those CLI commands to execute on other Citrix ADC instances. Lastly is the instance option, which I mentioned can be very useful for DevOps scenarios in which you can select an instance and pick the saved, running, or config based on duration and execute them on other ADCs. Or you can simply upload a file. So for this demo, I've gone with config template. You simply drag and drop one of the existing templates. I have a super simple template here just to show you how it works. You can edit the template as well. And all you need to do to define variables is to select the value which you want to convert to variable and click on convert, give it certain name and define the type of this variable. So I've converted one of my variables, which is host name. Secondly, I would also like to variabilize my app name. So I give it the display name as app name. And I would also want to have different IPs. So I convert them. And note that in the type of the field, you can define whether you want it to be a text field or an IP, etc. So for IP, I've made it into an IP field. Now, very simple config, just for demo purpose. You can have lengthy configurations as well. Now I have the config, I've defined the variables. Next step is to select the ADC instances on which I want to execute this configuration. So I've selected 2 for now. And I go to the next step, which is to define my variable values. You can either select common values, or most likely you will have different variable values for different ADC instances. So ADM service will give you a pre-filled key file wherein you can see the selected target instances and the variables which you've defined. You simply key in the values across this table. Now I'm filling in the values across 2 of my target ADCs for 3 of my variables. And after I'm done, I select, I kind of save the file and upload it back to ADM. It will tell me that it's uploaded successfully. And then move forward to the next stage, which is to take a quick job preview. And now here you have only 2 commands, so it may seem unnecessary or not that useful. But when you have a long list of commands, the preview is very helpful. And here you will see that the variables which I've defined for each of the target instances are replaced. The actual value is replaced in the preview. So this is very useful step in your actual deployment tasks. And then I go to the execute process. Here you can have selections like, in case there is a failure of a specific command, would you like to ignore and continue, or stop further commands, or roll back? You can also select whether you want to execute this config job immediately, or you want to schedule it at a specific time in the day. Is it a daily task, or do you want to schedule it for specific days of the week, etc.? So it's pretty granular, as you can see. For now, I'll go with executing it immediately and executing it in parallel as well. And I want my execution report on my DL, my email, after the config job has been executed. And I click on finish. So very simple way on how to define your config jobs. You can see that my job is now completed. Execution status says completed. I go to details to see how it has been completed. Now, in case of failures, this would be interesting to know what exactly failed. You can see that it's completed, and drill down to the most granular level to see command logs as well to know whether everything has gone through fine. So this was a simple demo on config jobs, which is really useful feature for your day-to-day config deployments. It can help you automate your large config deployments on Citrix ADC instances. You can also schedule those. So do try this out. It's a very interesting feature used by many of our admins. So moving on to the next feature which I'd like to talk about and discuss is Citrix ADM Service StyleBooks for automating application deployments. Now, just a quick intro to StyleBooks for all those of you who do not know what they are. StyleBooks are blueprints that help you simplify the task of deploying and managing complex Citrix ADC configs for your apps. So these are essentially for application config deployments. While you can use config jobs for both kinds of deployments, instance and app, typically config jobs are more suited for instance configurations, whereas if your config is app specific, you would want to use StyleBooks for certain advantages which we'll look through. Now you can use or create a StyleBook for configuring a specific feature. This feature can be either a network function or an enterprise app. It fits amazingly well with infrastructure as a code, which is typically practiced by DevOps teams, where the configurations are declarative and version controlled. They're also reproducible, that is, you can use one StyleBook in the other, and they are atomic. Now, ADM service comes with a lot of default StyleBooks at network function level as well as enterprise app level. But if you have, certain configs which are custom to your requirement, you can also create your own StyleBooks. These are some of the key characteristics of StyleBook. First is that it's declarative, which means that you define what your end goal or end output is to look like. It need not be, you need not give a stepwise approach to, reach the destination. You just tell ADM service that this is where I want to go. If your existing config is already having a certain state, it will compare with this declarative state and do the needful of what configs it needs to apply to get it to that state. Also, it's atomic, which means that your application config, which will always be in a consistent state. That is, either the StyleBook executes everything or nothing. If something fails, it will have a complete rollback, which is called atomicity, to help you, keep your application config in a consistent state always. It is versioned. So as you update your StyleBooks, you can have version control. They are composable, which means you can reuse your StyleBooks as building blocks in larger StyleBook application deployments. It's app-centric, as I mentioned, because it has a tight association between the app and its configuration, which also gives you a very easy way to migrate it, without really worrying about what is the underlying ADC. You have an auto-generated UI, so you don't have to specifically code your UI in a different way. It'll give you a very interactive auto-generated UI wherein the user simply has to key in certain parameters, which are essential for his app deployment. And all the operations are API driven. So using StyleBooks, what you can do is deploy your ADC functions or enterprise apps in a templatized and super simple manner. It will help you logically group all your config dependencies, which also makes the migration very easy. So they're all logically grouped. That is, your app's config is very tightly bundled so that when you want to move it from one ADC to another, it makes it super simple. And it future-proofs your applications, because today it might be, say, in an on-prem deployment. Tomorrow you decide, or your organization decides to take a cloud approach, and you want to move these configs to your Citrix ADC in your cloud. So you can do that in a very simplified manner without investing additional time and efforts. So it's future-proof. These are some of the default StyleBooks which ADM service has. A lot of them are, ADC functions, and a lot of them are enterprise apps. With that, let's have a quick demo on StyleBooks. So I go to my StyleBook section. As you can see, there are a lot of default StyleBooks listed here. SSO Google App StyleBook, SSO Office 365 StyleBooks. All these are your enterprise app StyleBooks. You'll also find Citrix ADC function StyleBooks. which are, LBCS kind of style books. Here you can see a simple style book for HTTP or SSL load balancing. Now, just for your information, I'm going to show you how a style book looks like. You will not need it if you want to use built-in style books. This is how a style book looks like. It's defined in YAML, has a name. The import style book section helps you reuse existing style books, which can act as building blocks. Parameters section helps you take inputs. Component section, which is the most important section in a style book, helps you define what components you want to create as a part of that style books. You can either use built-in components or you can use custom components and create your own components. And lastly, you'll have the output section, which is optional, in which you define how you want to expose or what you want to expose after creating the style book, which can be used by other style books as well. So let's just get started with creating an application. I've opened one of my style books. All I need to do is input the parameters which it is requesting me for. So I give it a name. I give my app an IP. And I don't want to give any other input for now. So I simply scroll down and give a target ADC instance to ADM service on which I wanted to execute this particular application. So, and that's it. I click on create. Now, ADM service will do all the required configuration to deploy this application on my selected ADC instance, gives you a step-by-step, incremental update. And here you can see that the operation has completed successfully. Had something failed, it would completely roll back as it's atomic in nature. Now you can see that the config pack has been created. Whenever you execute a style book on an ADC instance, it results in a config pack. And this is the secret or the key of grouping the mapping between an app and an ADC instance. So I've opened the config pack. You can see that whatever inputs you had given are as is. You can edit any input here. The editing is super simple. Just give a new parameter and click on OK again. And same way in which the deployment had happened, the update will happen quick and easy. So you can see I updated the IP address of the app and it's already done. Now, you may have a use case where today you have it on one ADC. Tomorrow you want to migrate this application to another ADC. Now, since you've already done the deployment using stylebooks, it's as simple as just editing the target ADC. Select the new ADC to which you want to migrate this app, unselect the ADC on which you want to remove it from, and click on OK. ADM will take care of removing this app from your existing ADC and migrating it to the new ADC, which you've now selected as the target instance. Isn't it super simple? Yeah, so that's the advantage of stylebooks. Do have a look. Many of our customers use this today and swear by it on how simple and easy they've made this stylebooks has made to deploy and manage app configurations. So with that, we've reached an end of this demo. I'll now move on to the next demo, which is to migrate applications using the stylebook migration tool. Now, if you have used stylebooks to deploy your application, then it's not much of a hassle to migrate it as I just demoed to you. But in case you have not used stylebooks and you have deployed your apps traditionally, which is the case with most customers, then how do you really migrate it when you want to start using stylebooks? So this demo covers, or rather this migration tool covers three aspects. One is the migration, that is your apps may be deployed in a traditional manner using CLI or UI, etc. And you want to migrate it now and you want to leverage stylebooks. So this tool will help you convert your existing apps in a stylebook format and then migrate it. Or you just want to future-proof your apps. That is, you have your traditionally deployed apps and you want to convert them to stylebooks, but you don't want to migrate them now. So that can also be done via this workflow. And third is that you want a custom stylebook. That is, you want to create a custom stylebook for your requirement, but you're not comfortable with defining the stylebook as it's in YAML. So you can simply go with CLI commands. You can give it as an input to this particular tool, and ADM service will create the required style book for you. So very simple. Let's look at how this works. So I go to my StyleBooks configurations, click on Migrate ADC configuration, which is the new tool. Please note that this is in tech preview. So have a look at, how this works. It will soon be going, GA, but as of now, it is in tech preview. So please take a note of that. Read about the workflow, read about some of the limitations which are there in the tech preview release to understand how this works and get started. So all you need to do is select the ADC instance from which you want to migrate the application and select the ADC instance to which you want to migrate the application. Now, ADM service will intelligently discover all the apps which are deployed on your source ADC instance, and it will show it to you upfront. Now, you can select the app which you want to migrate, give it a certain app name also, or you can choose to keep it the same as well, and then proceed to the next step. Now, this is the magic which happens where an ADM service will automatically fetch all the CLI commands related to that app. Without ADM service, this is a Herculean task. You'll have to go through your complete NSCon file, try to understand or remember which particular command was mapping to which application, and fetch it. But this magic is taken up and performed seamlessly by ADM service, in which you can fetch all the CLI commands related to that app. It'll give you a preview as well. You can also download it for later reference if you want, and then continue with the migration process. And now, before migrating, if you want to do certain edits to any of these components, that is any of the configs like IP, etc., you can do that. Any of the secret parameters will be prompted for your input. For example, SSL cert key is required for you to be keyed in before the migration happens, because ADM service will not be able to understand because it's a secret password or a secret key. So you give that value. Now you'll also have certain, configurations which are at a global level, that is of your ADC, but which are very necessary to be performed on, for the successful migration of your application. So we'll show you what these set of commands are. We don't support the migration of these global commands, but you can always use a config job to execute these on your target ADC. You can go to the config jobs, and after you have executed these via config jobs, you can click on the little checkbox that I acknowledge that the global configurations are also applied on my target ADC. And after you do that, you can start with the migration activity. So it gives you a quick preview and starts the migration process. Again, you can see step-by-step, successes on how the migration is happening. If something fails, it will roll back and show you. And that was a quick demo on migration. Now we move to the last section of our session here, which is Citrix ADM Service API for automating ADM tasks. So we have complete API support for all the operations. These are RESTful APIs. Each resources is defined as a logical group, so you'll have URLs to identify those. We have backward compatibility as well, and you have very intuitive HTTP status codes and messages, which will help you script in a very easy manner. This is a quick overview of our API. We also support SDKs. So SDKs are available in Java, C#, Python, so that you can leverage those for your scripting purposes. Now I'd like to show you some reference material. So that brings us to the end of the session. I hope you have liked, the way ADM helps in automation, and you'll try it out. There are lot more features which ADM has to offer, but due to limited time, of course, I could not cover all, but I've tried to show you some of the use cases at least, which can help you in your automation journey. Here is some Citrix documentation and an overview of Citrix ADM service, how to get started, and how to do different functionalities with the help of how-to articles. And we also have certain videos. You can see many more which are published on YouTube. Simply search ADM and those will be listed for different features, so you can learn more about the product. And as you may have seen, I just gave a quick sneak peek into the API. For a much deep dive and hands-on session of Citrix ADC as well as Citrix ADM APIs with detailed examples, please join Esther Barthel's session on Nitro APIs for the win. It's a super cool session which will talk more about our APIs and also give you hands-on example on how these API can help you with your automation and scripting use cases. So thank you so much. It was really great interacting with you guys. Do feel free to note down your questions and ask me any clarifications or any doubts or any feedback you have on this session. Thank you so much and have a good day.